All right. Welcome to our platform webinar. My name is Mei Leung. I lead up the solution consulting team here at Toolio. My career spans about 15 years overseeing planning teams, buying teams, and allocation teams. And most recently, before joining Toolio, I was VP of planning for a brand where I helped select and implement Toolio. Great to see you all. Thank you for joining. I'm going to kick off with this slide over here. This is just Toolio at a glance. So Toolio is comprised of our three modules: merchandise planning, assortment planning, and allocation. Merchandise planning is where you set your financial frameworks. So those tops down targets, whether it is by product category, whether it is by brand, by store, by wholesale account. And this is also where you've got your open to buy. And this is also where your what if scenarios live. And then we've got our assortment plan. This is turning those targets that you set back in merchandise plan into product decisions. What to buy, how much to buy, and for what clusters to buy for. The ultimate output of our assortment planning module are purchase orders that get pushed directly into your ERP for that clean handoff. And then allocation. Allocation turns those product decisions into execution. So the right units in the right sizes at the right stores at the right time. And so that's effectively our platform architecture. I'm going to kick off today by jumping into merchandise planning. So what you see here is our merchandise planning platform sitting nicely next to our assortment plan and allocation modules. And so what you're looking at here is my 2026 open to buy. I have it broken out by month, and that is completely flexible for you to decide. You can drill into week, zoom out by quarter. And then I have my division, department, class down to the left-hand side. Toolio is based on a concept of attribute-based planning. What that means in plain English is that you're able to plan the way your business is organized. You are not locked into one fixed hierarchy. Right now, I'm looking at division, department, class, but if I wanted to pull in channel and product type, I can select that in. I can move my attributes around and then I can reload to see a different lens. So I'm looking at the same data, underlying data, but I've now pivoted to show it at the channel, division, department, class, product type level. And so this is really the same numbers, just a different cut of it. And so for your business, if you're looking at it by collection or silhouette or concept or delivery, you can simply configure it down to that level of granularity. And then we can then pull that type of planning attribute in here so that you can actually plan in merchandise plan at that level. And your team just simply needs to select it and pull it in. And the way that it works, technically speaking, is that the system is maintaining calculations at the most granular level that is configured to your plan. So even if I am looking at my product level for just channel and division, I'll just click out to keep it really simple here. The math that's behind it is actually happening at that lowest level of granularity. This is how our system ensures that all levels stay synchronized and reconciled. Now, every planner also has the ability to be very personalizable when it comes to the metrics. So they can come in here and set up their own views. So a director of planning, a head of planning might just want some tight views as it relates to sales and margin and open to buy, keep it super clean and simple, and they can save off a view for themselves. Whereas a planner might want to drill into the details a little bit. They may want to pull in returns or AURs or AUCs or GMROI as a metric, and they can simply search and toggle that metric in. It's going to be pulled down to the bottom of my screen here. Now I have GMROI in my view. And then that planner again can go ahead and create a view for themselves, create a private view or a public view that is visible across the teams. We also have a quick filter here. You can actually type in a metric and it's going to instantly show you only those matching items. And so super helpful whether you're using it in the merchandise planning view to look for a metric, whether you're looking at it in the assortment planning view to quick filter for a collection or a concept or a style name as an example, or a color name. You can actually leverage that quick filter functionality. And all of our metrics come with calculations. And so there's no black box. You can see a formula right behind it. The system is telling you exactly how it got to its number. And then if you have any metrics that have dependencies, you can actually pull that into your view as well. So if I'm looking at weeks of supply, I can actually ask the system to pull in any other metrics that are dependent to this metric. And so I know now that transfer receipts and adjustment costs are dependencies for my weeks of supply metric. And now it's going to pull those two additional metrics for me at the bottom of the screen here, right under the GMROI that I had pulled in earlier. And so from an auditability standpoint, it's super helpful to know what the formulas are and what the inputs are driving the formulas. Relatedly, we have inputs and outputs. Inputs are planner driven numbers. So you might want to input a week's of supply to output a certain change in your receipt cost. So if I select receipts as an output from a week's of supply input, I can simply lower my week's of supply to 9. And then that's going to output an impact into my receipt line, as you see here. And so if your planner plans at the weeks of supply level, they can do that. If your planner prefers to plan by receipts and that'll impact or that'll output weeks of supply, they can do that as well. And you can actually save these input and output relationships in your view so that it persists every time you open up a view. You're not forced into just one way of thinking or one logic of thinking. Toolio really allows planners to work the way they think. Now, that's kind of the foundation of Toolio from a product perspective. We offer other plans. We can actually offer plans in-store plan, wholesale plan, finance plan, and brand plan. So I'll get to that in a second. But I'm going to then shift over to a new workflow. We've been in season forecasting and open to buy. I'm going to shift into pre-season open to buy now. So if I'm thinking about the year 2027, as you see here, I have zero across the board in my 2027 plan. I haven't planned it yet. And so what I want to chat you through is a concept called our forecasting algorithm. Our forecasting algorithm is a trend-based approach. So if I simply click forecast in here, I can actually smart start right into my assortment. When I say smart start, what that means is that the system is going to leverage your history to give you a starting point as to what 2027 plans should be. It's a starting point. As a planner, you're going to want to go in and adjust the builds and the comps and the metrics accordingly based on your strategic initiatives. But the system is at least giving you that first pass, doing that 80% of that work for you so that your job is really kind of finessing rather than building everything from scratch. And so to do so, when we click forecast, it opens up a dialog box. And it's really asking you three questions. It's asking you, one, where are the numbers coming from? Because I'm building a brand new year in 2027, I'm having my sales pull from sales history from an existing year. And then it's also asking you, what is your growth assumption? And so the growth assumption is really the system is asking you, how can it read your trend? Where should we be reading these trends from? And so I asked the system to read it from my last 2 weeks of selling. And then lastly, it's asking me what categories share a pattern. This is where you're able to group based on how your business evolves. And effectively, once I answer these three questions for me, I can click that forecast button. And now the system is able to reload and provide me with a forecast by month into 2027, populated instantly, as you see here, all across your product hierarchy. And all of that is really based on the data, the trend of your business. And you can actually change how you think about these trends as well. If I go back and open up my forecasting algorithm, I might instead want to use the last 4 weeks as a trend, the last 5 weeks, the last 8 weeks. You can be super specific about the trend timeline that you're wanting to zoom into, and you can be very specific about the levels in which you're grouping your business that share a pattern. And doing that is going to then allow you to drive different scenarios. You can run different scenarios based on the different trend buckets that you're asking the system to pick up to see what the trends shake out and what you believe in as a planner, knowing what's going on in the business. And so that's the concept of being able to run a quick trend algorithm to give you a what if analysis on your business and then saving those scenarios off in the scenario view here. Now let's hop into store plan really quickly. So store plan is exactly what you might expect. It's giving you visibility into by store, um, actual performance, and giving you the ability to plan by store, by product level into the future. This is also where you can run that trend forecasting algorithm into 2027, or you can actually seed as well. So seeding is the other option of taking your 2026 forecast and then driving a 2027 plan based on what your 2026 forecast is for the year, and then maybe grossing it up by 20%. I like to do this if I'm planning a brand new year and I want to get a head start on planning my comp stores. This is going to give me a 20% growth rate year over year for those comp stores. And if I wanted to hop into 2027, I can just simply click 2027. We'll hop into that 2027 view. And then I can start layering on new stores in here. And so if I wanted to, let's see, in this level, add a location. I can then add new stores based on my store opening cadence. I can set all of this up in my settings page in the admin page, but I can open up a new store, store 11, and I can actually ask the system to also seed based on a like for like store. So if I'm opening store 11, I can actually select a like for like store. And again, add a weighting of 30% because this store is going to be 30% better. I can then go into year over year and start planning that new store, leveraging a like for like comp store capability. Another place where I like to do scenario planning is in store plan. I can actually have different scenario plans of what my 2027 or 2028 would look like if I open 5 stores versus 10 versus 12. And each store can then be weighted around based on product attributes. So I might have a new store opening that is heavy on my sleep business, but light on my panties and bras, whereas another store might be a bigger panties and bras business, but light on sleep. So you can actually plan the mix of your store openings based on the product targets that you have in mind. Okay. Now, what I want to chat through at the very end is reporting. So if you think about MFP, we have a lot of planning insights. We also offer reporting that is preloaded in all of our views. You can actually select any report that you want to pull in. Use that as a starting point and then change things around as to what attributes or metrics you're wanting to see in that report. You might want to add additional metrics in here or remove some additional metrics in here. And you can simply change things around by moving these little bars around to personalize it in a view in a way that makes the most sense for your business. And very similar to those views, you can actually save off these reports. These reports can be emailed to you on a cadence. You can schedule that report there. Oopsie. I clicked something else. Let me actually go back. And in addition to these reports, we also have Toolio, that is our planner's assistant. And so I can ask questions to Toolio. How are my receipts tracking versus last year? And so this is that next level of insight that is above and beyond just what a report is able to do. So you do have that chat GPT slash Claude like experience there. And if you think about, being a VP or a head of planning, you don't necessarily want to build pivot tables to get an answer. You can actually just interact with AI and LLM in particular to actually get an understanding of your business right in this chatbot. And so that is MFP at a glance. So to pull everything together, you saw the interface, you saw the flexible views, you saw the personalizable metrics, you saw the smart start. So being able to seed a full year's worth of plan in seconds using your own data. You saw the ability to create your own views and scenario plan, and then you saw a quick preview of what merch plan and store plan have in store. Obviously, there are more multi-plans that you can keep in mind. My last bit in here that I'll walk away with is once you have store plan and product plan set up, you would be able to also reconcile back and forth. So you might actually plan your store openings in store plan where you have 10 new stores opening next year. Then you would be able to push that into your merchandise plan. So the source plan would be store plan with those 10 new stores and then pushing it to merch plan. So then you can see what that would look like at the division, department class, subclass, product type level, and vice versa. You could also start in merchandise plan and then push down to the store plan to have that single source of truth via this reconciliation functionality here. Great. So now let's move on to assortment planning. So all of the target settings that is happening in merchandise plan, those targets actually flow directly into our assortment planning module. This is where buyers and planners and merchants interact, and they are deciding on the width and depth decisions in AP that is going to inform the receipt plan. So this is our gallery view, really wonderful for our buying and merchant counterparts because not everything is just pure black and white. We do meet the buyers and merchants where their heads are at in terms of a visual assortment. So you can come in here to ensure that you have the right shade of pink, and that you have a balanced assortment from a silhouette, fabric perspective. And so really getting that kind of visual point of view on top of the metrics and the numbers that are important to your business. So really having that left brain, right brain embedded into the platform as well. So now let me hop into my grid view and I'll show you what the assortment ladders look like. And so in this view, as it loads up, you'll see that I'll be showing you my in-season assortment. So what is in my stores currently in 2026. And so what we have here are all of my products that is in season to the left here. And then to the right, this is basically everything that the system knows about my product. So the MSRPs and the clusters it's going to, my launch and end dates, the sales curves, size curves, what the rate of sale is, aka the productivity. So that's everything that the system knows about my products. Now, the very first thing that I would check as a planner is I would open up this receipt or this roll-up reconciliation screen here. And this screen is actually giving me a quick bird's eye view as to if I'm aligned with my merch plan. So over here, this column, this is the tops down MP targets that we worked on back in merchandise plan. So the dollars from a revenue perspective, from a receipt perspective. And then this roll up column over here is the bottoms up assortment that is each item rolling up. So the sum of every item level plan that I'm building or that I'm forecasting for, and I'm quickly able to see if those are converging or diverging at a glance. Now let me go ahead and drill into a core item for you. So drilling into this one core item, I'll just make it a bigger screen here. This is where many teams spend most of their time in terms of planning for core and planning for a ladder forecast to drive a more accurate demand forecast. It's taking a little bit. Let's see. Here we go. And so I'll just make it a little bit larger here. And so what we see here is the item level weekly forecast for that item. And so in Toolio, I'm going to visualize it for you so that's a little easier to see. What you see here is that we have this original forecast. This is a time phase view of my demand of that one item based on a point in time. I then also have my actuals flowing in that the system is tracking. And then we have this plan system line. This is the system's reforecast of my item. And so how does that reforecast work? Well, we have a concept called tournament forecasting. And so tournament forecasting effectively means is that we are not relying on a single forecasting model. Instead, we run multiple algorithms in parallel. So we will run statistical models and we will run machine learning models, and then we tournament these models against each other. The system backtests, or in other words, the system compares how each model performs on your historical data. and then we'll select the one model that best fits that specific item slash cluster based on the highest accuracy score. And so the model that is the most accurate looking back and comparing to how you actually sold, that is the model that is selected for that go forward forecast into the future. And our tournament forecasting is continuously learning from our patterns and it's weighting the right algorithm accordingly so that you're not locked into one forecasting logic. And then, really, the best part about AI effectively is the fact that it's self-optimizing. So, on top of the fact that our forecasts are generated every week as new actuals come in, and it's using the latest winning model, our overall machine learning models are retrained every month to incorporate the most recent advancements in AI. And so a product, as it's being assigned a model, may change the model as the data maturity evolves. So that's really going to ensure the most accurate demand forecast, as well as it shows the adaptability of our forecast. Okay. And so the result of having such an accurate forecast is that there's less manual work for the planner. Even when trends are changing, the system is able to pick it up. Now, what if a planner did want to make a change in the forecast? It's really as simple as keying it in. So we actually have an adjusted line right here. So if I wanted to change my forecast to 700 here, I can actually save that and I can visualize that new forecast. This is that adjusted forecast of mine compared to the system forecast. And so that bump is now the forecast that I had created based on what I know of my business. Maybe there's a TikTok phenomenon happening. And so I'm able to go inside and actually make a change myself within the system. I don't have to do anything offline. It's directly within the UI. Now, another reason a planner might want to make a change to the system's forecast could be based on a confidence score. So we have something called a confidence score for every item of our products. If I scroll over here, so each item will have a confidence score. And if I drill into that confidence score of one item, I can actually see what the true confidence score is. We tell our customers use this as a do I need to look signal. And so if the confidence score is high, what that means is that the system can reliably forecast for you. And so that there's a high, medium, low bar. And there's also that percent confidence. And so Toolio is exposing that the high confidence means is that the planner can let the system run. But if you see a low confidence, this means the planner should review and or override. So if there is a brand new item where you don't have enough history, whether there's nothing else like it in your product assortment, the system is going to give you a low score. It's going to be super transparent with you. And so what that means as a planner is I'm going to go ahead and review thoroughly every item with a low confidence score. But if it has a high confidence score, this means the system is able to let its modeling, let its tournament forecasting run. And we're also exposing to you the statistical and the machine learning model accuracy score. So we are exposing the weighted MAPE, the May, and the bias scores just for full transparency's sake. So the weighted MAPE is really just giving us a percent of accuracy. And so if it's less than 10%, it is a highly accurate, excellent score. If it's about 40%, it's good, acceptable. We also have a May, which is really how many units the forecast is off by, whereas the weighted MAPE is more of how big is that in percentages. And so you can compare it across your items. And then we have bias, which really tells you the direction of the error. So a positive bias means the system tends to over forecast. A negative bias means the system tends to under forecast. And so full transparency in terms of our planning process and demand forecasting process. And so let me just hop back here really quickly. So based on the demand forecast that the system is generating for you, I'm actually going to then show you how we translate that demand signal and build a time-phased receipt plan. So just let that load. So as you can see here, I have a receipt plan down to that size level, and it is time phased into the future. And so what is driving my receipt plan by size into the future are three key inputs. Number one being that demand forecast from that tournament forecasting winner that we just looked at. And then the system also will consider safety stock that you as a planner will set. That safety stock would really account for any demand variability that you might experience. And then you can also set an order cycle. An order cycle tells the system how frequently am I placing a replenishment order with this vendor. And so based on those three inputs, the system is able to provide you with a size level, week level breakout of when to bring in more receipts to support that demand forecast looking out into the future, considering lead times as well, obviously. And so the receipts are going to reshape in real time as it's constantly trying to rebalance based on your demand, based on your safety stock, based on your order cycle, based on the lead times, based on how much inventory you already own in your DC, and based on what you already have on order. Okay, and so that's effectively how the system is leveraging machine learning and providing accurate demand forecast to drive a suitable supply forecast. Now let me move into a preseason view very quickly here. So in preseason, if I'm buying for a 2027 assortment, the very first thing the system will do for you is provide you with a hindsight analysis. What a hindsight analysis is effectively productivity modeling at the choice level. The system is analyzing your historical data and it's creating this marginal return curve. And by creating this curve, it's effectively looking for the point of diminishing returns. We're adding an additional choice, an additional style, stops driving significant sales, and it's just going to increase or create inventory bloat. And so the system will show you what that or will show you what that marginal return curve looks like, and then we'll move into the step of rationalization. Rationalization is a step where it's taking a look at your MFP targets. And so it will look at your MFP targets in terms of the growth. So I'm planning up 15% here, and it's taking a look at the marginal return curve that it ran. And based on the MFP goals that you set, our rationalization is automatically suggesting placeholders that you need to bring into your business, right? And so quickly showing you how that works. It's going to calculate that for you. And so based on the marginal return curve and based on that growth factor, the system recommends the amount of new choices that you need to bring in to hit the MFP target that you set. And so this is really what SKU rationalization is about. This is where you stop buying 15 units or 15 versions of the same product when eight of those choices would deliver the same revenue with better margins and lower markdowns. The very last step from a rationalization perspective is the ability to seed. So again, a smart start kind of philosophy here at Toolio, where Toolio can actually populate for you the placeholders that you need to hit your MFP targets based on the type of products and based on the cluster level. And so if I hop into my assortment, you can see here that I've already seeded those placeholders for me. So this is pre-sized, meaning it is looking at how many placeholders I need based on the clusters that I have in my store fleet. And it is ranked based on productivity of highest productivity to lowest productivity. So I need about 15 panties in my 2027 assortment. And here is the productivity that the system is expecting out of these panties based on the historical performance, historical cleanse performance. And so effectively, once you know what the rate of sale is, the system is able to build out cluster level demand plans for each choice, very similar to what you saw earlier with the tournament forecasting. And then it's able to convert those into receipt plans and purchase orders that respect the safety stock, the presentation minimums, and the vendor constraints. Okay. And so financial targets in MP, product decisions in AP, and now let's close the loop by hopping into allocation. So allocation, let's do first things first. What you first see here is that this is the same kind of view as you might expect what you just saw in our assortment plan because the buy plan is actually flowing directly into this module. There's nothing that needs to be re-entered. Everything flows directly in because we are a platform. So none of the allocation strategies here is built from scratch. It's really the intelligence being inherited from your financial plans and from your assortment decisions. Your job as an allocator in here is really just to validate and adjust rather than to start over from scratch. So you are the allocator. It is Monday morning. You open your command center over here. And what you're seeing is that these are all of the products that the system has processed overnight and it's already waiting for you. And so down to the left is every allocation strategy for these products in the system. This is your products. This is sorted based on priority with images. And then you have your division, department, style number, dates, everything the system knows about that product, as well as the stores and clusters that these products are assigned to, as well as the sales curves and size curves and safety stocks that you've assigned for that. So think of it like a control panel. It's every setting for every product that's visible at a glance. Now, these green chips here, these mean that the system ran overnight and that all of the recommendations are calculated for you, waiting for a review. And the buyers and the planners, if they have any notes for you, you can actually open this inbox. This is that collaboration inbox where any comments that your buying team or planning team might leave for you for this product, you can actually review in one place without having to click on anything else. So let's hop in and look at one item in here. Look at style four. What you see here is a brand new item. We just dropped it. We received 1,000 units this week, and we've never sold this product before. And so, how does the system know what to do? First, the system is going to estimate your launch demand for every single store for every single week. It's also using the cluster assignments and sales curves that we set up in AP. So if we look at this one store, store 9, for example, we can see that we are selling about 2 to 3 units every week. So maybe it's 2.8 here, and then it's 2.5, then it's 3 and 3.2. So every single week has a forecast. It's not a flat number. What that means is that it is a time-phased forecast that moves. So it's really projecting how this product will sell at that specific store week over week. If I were to look at store 7, we're selling 3.5 all the way to 4 units per week. So this is a larger door, it's a more productive door. And so a different store will have a different demand. Therefore, it should have a different allocation. We are not sending the same quantity everywhere. Now that the system understands that demand, the system actually works backwards from your business rules. As an allocator, you're able to configure safety stock and order cycle targets, as well as things like minimum presentation. And so the system knows that if you expect to sell about 2 to 3 units per store per week, and it needs to maintain about 2 weeks of forward demand cover, it's going to need to push a certain quantity in the initial units. And so every unit that it's pushing out in this in transit line, all of these green bars over here, you can see that it is tracing back to the store's specific demand forecast and the specific business rules that you've set. It is not a flat split. Okay, so some stores will get 11 units as an initial, some stores will get 8. Now, if you look at this in transit row week over week, what you notice here is that it doesn't stop at an initial push. It's actually pushing that big push in week 1, and then it's continuing to push in inventory week over week over week. And so what that means is that it's actually reforecasting every week and it's pulling inventory to keep each store at target cover, right? And so if you look at that weeks of supply row here, you can see that the system is following that business rule of keeping a target store or target stock across every store. And if you also look at our DC here, you can see that we start off with 1,000 units and then week over week, it's draining down right? All the way through until it's sitting at just one unit left. And so that is that system deploying inventory at the rate that the stores need it. And it's phased to meet the demand at those stores when they need it. We don't dump out all of the inventory at once. It really is phased out based on the demand rate. And the system is then recommending pulling those inventories from your DC to your stores. And so that's another smart start where you can actually see that forecast into the future. We also have a concept called size curves. So if you click into this one store here, you can actually see that each forecast is based on a size. And so store two might get a different size curve profile than say store 10, right? And the system applies those automatically. Your allocators do not need to build a single size curve. It is all handled and modeled based on cleansed data and is run automatically. Lastly, you can zoom out to see what are our weeks of supply by size, by store. So allocation also has a reporting plan view. And so you can imagine size fragmentation is really what kills sell-throughs for our brands and retailers. So replenishment that reacts to actual demand, not just a plan from 3 months ago, is how you really protect that size integrity. Okay. And so bringing it all together, what I walked you through today is just that continuous workflow of setting your financial targets back in merchandise plan, the product decisions in assortment plan, and execution and allocation. And so every step we have shared data, we have decisions that's being cascaded, and everything is happening in one connected flow in one platform.